All right, we're going to have Mark Easley of Crowdfunding start first. And what's interesting about this morning is that we have an opportunity that he has created for the state of North Carolina. I will say he and his colleagues who are behind this. And then we'll hear about an organization that's actually adapting it and folding this opportunity into what they're doing. So it's going to be a really fun morning, I think. So with that, Mark comes to us by way of Silicon Valley from the beginning of his career. We all think of him, maybe most people know him as an angel investor in the region. But he is, I would say now, the father of crowdfunding. That's how I think of him. So you didn't know that, but that's my motto. Right. So welcome, Mark.
Thank you. All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Thanks, Krista, and thanks to 1 Million Cups for inviting us today. Really appreciate that. As she mentioned, I'm Mark Easley. I'm the angel investor around town here for many, many years. The problem that we're trying to solve is how do you get funding for startups and small businesses? And I've run into a lot, and I'm sure you have too. It's not easy to do that. So about 5 years ago, I started this project off to make it legal to do what we call investment crowdfunding. Anytime you're raising money from investors, whether it's for debt or equity, you are doing a security. Securities are regulated businesses. The government always has lots of rules and regulations around those things. So to enable any kind of new way of doing it, which was referred to as an exemption, you have to get a law passed first, or get the regulators to do something about it. 5 years ago, we started off to do that at the federal level, what's called the Jobs Act, Jumpstart of Business Startups. And then I took on the challenge of doing it here in North Carolina to get a local version of that kind of exemption we call the PACES Act, providing access to capital for entrepreneurs and small business. Flash ahead 5 years later, we finally got it done. It took the federal guys about that long to write the rules. So all of this is new. It's just gone into effect legally last year in both cases. So what does this mean? Before, all of you have tried to raise money, which I'm sure there's a lot of you. You had a pretty complicated process to run around town and try to find guys like me to write you a check, or try to get a bank or an SBA or any kind of lender to try to loan you some money. And it's not easy. Or you were getting it from Uncle Joe or out of your own credit card or pocket. Now what you can do is you can put together an offering, and you can put that offering online on what's called an investment crowdfunding platform. And you can go out and promote the fact that you're raising money. And you can then try to explain to people why, as an investor, they might want to loan you some money or invest in your company to get some equity. That's what we mean by investment crowdfunding. Okay? So the subject I'm here to talk about is investment crowdfunding and where we've gotten so far. Okay? The first thing I really want you to remember, because we don't have much time here, is two websites. This is mine. It's called crowdfundnc.com. Everything I talk about, if you were in my usual seminars, about an hour. We have a lot of them coming up. If you want to come to one of those and learn more, you can. But you don't really have to, because everything I'm talking about is up there. And you can walk through and learn a lot of stuff about how all of this works. Second thing I want you to remember is on the right there, you see something called Local Stake NC. Local Stake NC is the investment crowdfunding platform that we now have in North Carolina, which allows you to raise money this way. I put some requests out to 4 different companies around the United States who do this thing already, have been doing it for a few years, and got some proposals back. I settled on Local Stake and asked them to come and open up an operation here in North Carolina for a couple of reasons. One is they're a broker-dealer, so they operate, like any broker-dealer does, Fidelity, Schwab. They're under the same rules, FINRA, SEC, all that stuff. And they have experience doing that. They've already done the state operations in Indiana, Michigan, and Colorado. So North Carolina is actually the 4th state that they're now operating in. Okay, so you want to learn about how to actually do it and what you're getting into. You can sign up for an account right there on Local Stake and get started. Okay. The one subject I want to cover, since we have a very limited amount of time, what we've learned in the last 5 years, the question is, will this work? Nobody knew the answer to that 5 years ago. And there was a lot of questions, a lot of speed bumps, and a lot of potential for bad things to happen, and all sorts of fraud, and who knows what would happen. So, but luckily, 5 years, a lot of the other states passed this stuff earlier than we did. There's 3 years of experience with the state rules. There's a year of experience with the federal rules now. And here's what we've learned. You know, question one was, will anybody go online and give money to strangers? And the answer to that question is pretty well established right now. You've all heard of what we call donation and reward crowdfunding. That's what usually people think of when you say crowdfunding. It's like Indiegogo, Kickstarter, those kind of things. They have, Kickstarter has 13 million people have donated $3.2 billion to 131,000 creative projects so far. Indiegogo has, raised $1 billion and is operating in 223 countries. GoFundMe has 25 million donors on the site. And CrowdRise is a fundraising charity for 1.5 million charities. So the answer is they'll donate. But will they do investment crowdfunding? The answer to that is yes, too. It's taken off in several areas. One is called what we call peer-to-peer lending sites, where you can actually just borrow money to pay off your student loans, your credit cards, and all sorts of crazy stuff. Typically, Lending Club and Prosper. They're all doing billions of dollars worth of investing right now. Real estate sites like Ground Floor, Realty Mogul, same thing. Very popular to invest in real estate online. And then the subject we're interested in, small business loans, startup loans. Does it work? Yes. AngelList, WeFunder, a bunch of other sites that I like, Micro Ventures down in Austin, Texas. There's thousands of companies up there raising millions and millions of dollars right now. So the first question is, will it work? Will people donate? Can this all operate the way we hope it would? The answer to that is yes. The next question, which is I'll let you guys get into when we're finished up here, is how do you do it? And the last thing I'll just mention as the introduction part of it is, one of the things I believe about the whole thing, and I've tested it out, and we're testing it right now, is it is a bit of a localized thing. So if you look at those sites, AngelList, probably 90% of their companies and 90% of their investors are in Silicon Valley, and they are too. Crowdfunder.com, same thing, but they're in LA. Microventures, same thing, but they're in Austin, Texas. So one of the things we're testing with all of this up here right now in North Carolina is, can we make our crowdfunding ecosystem here that's just as good as the one in, say, Austin, Texas? And if we can, this will be a significant source of funding for our small businesses and our startups going forward from now on. That's our hope and our theory, and we're going to all test it out. And that's why I'm out here trying to help educate people about what this opportunity is. Okay, so right now, we're going to open it up to any questions you may have. Yes.
Is there a mic or no mic?
Yeah. Test.
It's a microphone. Oh, that's fine. So, stand up, yeah, that will help too. Jack, everybody hear me? Chest out. Yes. Yep. So, what strikes me here is you have a very interesting place to balance supply and demand of the amount of businesses that want the capital and the amount of capital to get into those deals. What kind of traction are you getting on both sides of this equation right now? And what marketing have you done to both parts of that to create, interest on both sides?
Okay, that's the way I explain that is, there's always plenty of people looking for money.
But do they know to go here to get it?
That's what I'm trying to get the word out. So I'm doing my piece, my particular piece of with this website and these seminars and other things to help get the word out. And I'm working with groups like 1 Million Cups, like Chamber of Commerce, like all accelerators around the state. We're getting the word out to the small businesses and the startups that, yes, here's a brand new way of doing it. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff behind that about how you do it. The second half of this two-sided equation is the investors. And there's some information up here. If you look, there's a little tab called Invest. You click on that and, as an investor. And by the way, who's an investor? Everybody in this room? So you might all want to think about that too. Now all of a sudden you can all invest in startups too and small businesses and whatever you want who go through this kind of thing. But so you may want to check that out. But part of what I teach the startups is one of the biggest jobs you have is to create your crowd. There is no crowd of people sitting around going, what can I invest some money in today, and clicking through one of these websites. But that doesn't matter, because the advantage you have now is you don't need to know who I am to get the money. You need to identify, like you would with any product you sell, who is going to be interested in it and how you're going to get to them. So there's a marketing campaign and piece which is absolutely strategic, and the most important part of this, making these things successful, which Bill and I have talked a lot about in our Autodot seminars, that says you're going to create that crowd, you're going to find that group that's interested in what you do, the service and products you have, and you're going to let them know that you're raising money, and you're going to send them to your fundraising platform, and you're going to sell it and make them excited about investing and working with you. Okay, that's your pathway. So I'm getting the word out about if you are an investor, how do you sign up for an account and where and stuff like that. But I'm not selling your product. You are. Okay. Any other question? Yeah.
I assume you chose.
We're working out.
Does it work?
I mean, maybe.
You use that any better?
There you go.
Yeah, okay. I assume you chose local state because of its success in the previous three states.
Yeah.
Can you give us evidence of that success?
Yes. Go onto the site. There's two sites they have. One's called localstate.com, and that's their site, their main site in Indiana, which they also use for Michigan and Colorado. So if you want to see everything they've done before, go through to localstate.com. And on our North Carolina site, you can click through to that too if you want to. So that's where you look up all of the existing and current and the already funded campaigns they've done, which is, you know, I don't know exact number, dozens and dozens, I guess. There's also, so then, how many have we done on local state NC? 0. Because we just launched this recently. And it takes some time for the companies to build up and build their profiles and get online. And remember, it's a regulated security that you're selling. So part of the regulatory process is you have to get approved by state regulators. So we've got one of the companies going through that right now, and I'm hoping we're going to launch our first one pretty soon.
Okay, we've got a question over there. Chris? Mike? Chris, hold on the mic.
Yeah.
Gosh. No?
Scott's saying it's not working, so I'll try to speak loudly.
Okay.
My question's about the kind of in between where you are right now and where you want to go. There's an education barrier, and I'm wondering if you've explored just, you know, at the point that you're validating right now, and people have to get through this process, just self-specification in the middle, so that you can work people into the process. If people are actually willing to put dollars into it to validate whether or not how it's going to grow. I think there's plenty of market research out there. There's plenty of proof and examples.
Right.
But a blogger blog, you know, if you going out into the field, that's not the expandable, you know, growing kind of learning network
Yeah.
you need.
Right, agreed. So this is a blogger blog, by the way. If you look on, when you look on there, I've got about 30 posts where I talk about all the stuff I'm talking about and all the things I've learned over the last 5 years as well as I could, and sort of put it into a simplified educational process. So I'm 100% with you on that, and that's why I started the site.
I think we need to bottle you, and you don't bottle you through that.
Okay. Any suggestions, ideas you have? We'll glad to hear. Yeah.
Chris knows the guy.
Okay, good.
I have a question actually personally, but I'll project so you don't have to run.
I can do it. I can fast walk. It's in the Olympics.
So we all know Indiegogo, Kickstarter, which is, I think, what we all think of initially if we're going to self-fund like this. Why would someone choose this over going to Kickstarter?
Okay, good question. Actually, you don't have to choose this over that. They're not competing with each other. They're two different things. With Kickstarter and Indiegogo, if you've looked at a lot of those, there's a lot of money being raised on a donation and reward basis. Small businesses are using that. Usually they use what they call a pre-sale model. So you say, here's my new product, you're gonna love it. You can pre-order it right now. We're planning to go in production later this year, blah, blah, blah. And you get the product and you get some benefits and perks to go with it. Okay? And that works really fine for a lot of consumer products. With investment crowdfunding, you're raising money to grow the company in a more traditional fashion, either by selling some equity in your company or some debt. Revenue share loans are very common for small businesses, for example. So you're going to borrow some money to open your new restaurant in Apex. And the day the restaurant opens, you start paying back that money to your investors out of your revenue flow. So there's two different kind of things you're doing. And by the way, a lot of companies are doing both. They'll have a Kickstarter campaign for their new product, or an Indiegogo campaign, and at the same time or soon after, they'll have their company fundraising campaign going on. As a matter of fact, one of the great developments last year was two of the best sites, Indiegogo and Microventures, teamed up to make that easier. They're working together on that. Any other questions? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, if you look under the events tab there, you can find out where I'm having seminars around town.
You click on that tab.
And,
Is that possible?
and what's scheduled in the near future and so on. And we've had a couple, three of them here already, right here in this room. So
That's where they can learn about.
this is where you can learn. I'll dive into all of this stuff. It's all readable on here right now, but we get into a lot more.
So,
So,
go ahead, sorry, yes.
yeah, so one of the things, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so I've done a little looking into these investment portals, and one of the things I'll say is that you wanna have a successful campaign, you gotta spend between $30,000 and $50,000 on marketing. Has that been your experience or observation?
No, I don't think you can put a hard number on it like that. It depends completely on how good at that you are, and what kind of a crowd you already have, and how you can appeal to them, and what kind of marketing you know how to do. If you're brand new, never done any online marketing yourself ever, maybe you might spend something like that, because you have to hire somebody to do all that for you. So it's all over the map. A better guideline I give is just figure for everything. We talk about the platform, the legal fees, the marketing, and blah, all the stuff put together, doing these campaigns, a video. You may spend around approximately between 8 and 10% of your raise. And if it's a giant raise for big money, it's going to be less than that. But I'm talking about the usual raises that are $250,000. $500,000, that kind of startup and small business money. Okay, one thing I'll just emphasize, how close we get. Just about done here. We'll definitely hear from startup masters here. One of the big things that's totally different now, because of these exemptions, is you are allowed to promote the fact that you're raising money. Before these exemptions came along, I'm talking about Regulation Crowdfunding and PACES Act, you weren't allowed to do that. You weren't even allowed, in a lot of cases, some of these pitch competitions we have are very marginal because of the way the regulations and the laws are. You sort of had, it was required for you to get a personal introduction relationship with somebody like me to even talk about what you're doing. Well, now it's a little different. You still can't talk about the terms and conditions and everything in the general case, in a public forum like this. You still have to send somebody to a website to look at it. But guess what? Now it's on the website where they can look at it. it's public. Everybody can sign up for an account and look at it that wants to, and you send everybody over there and let them look at it. And number two, it's perfectly allowed for you to sit here in a forum like this, or online, or on Facebook, or even on a TV show, to promote the fact that you've got a great company and a great product. And by the way, if you're interested in investing in that great company and that great product, please go take a look at it. Okay? This is completely different than it's ever been any time in investment history, really. So the other thing that's interesting, and we don't know exactly how it's going to work out, is how much that promotional process is really, and it goes back to your question too, about how do you go out and find the people, get the crowd. Okay, so just want to recommend you listen to Start Master TV right now, because that's one of the new options we have too. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Marty.
Mark.